Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. And hi, sir. So, I am Muhammad HAIKAL bin YUNUS, the group leader of Tiga Lipa, with my team member EJ or IYLIA JASMINE and also Sarah AZIZ. So, for our e-portfolio, we have chosen online album, and our theme is food, glorious food.
Food is delicious. Food is tasty. But you know what else food can be? Food can be aesthetically pleasing. The reason why Tigalipa decided to go with the theme food because we think that food is more than just something that we consume every day. It can be art. So using photography skills, we decided to capture the art of food.
So let's begin with the most important part of the day, which is breakfast. So the first photo is called egg toasty because it is simply a photo of a fried egg on top of a toasted piece of bread. This egg toasty is put on top of a plain white circular plate on the floor, which probably isn't the best place to put food, but it was for the aesthetics and we have to do it for the aesthetics. So the photo was taken on the 17th of June 2020 using the technique of LDOF, which is limited depth of field, where the main subject, which in this case is the egg toasty on the plate, is clear, whereas the floor, which is the background, is slightly blurred. This photo was edited using Lightroom, and the parts that were edited were the exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites, blacks, and color mix, specifically the color yellow, which is mostly for the yolk. So next is the plain and simple bagel, because bagels are a very plain and simple breakfast dish. On the bagel you can see a bit of cheese, though it's not that obvious, and a lot of red tomatoes. The bagel is put on top of a square plate, which is on top of a table which has a tablecloth that is of a squarish pattern. This photo was taken on the 19th of June 2020 and it uses the technique of LDOF, which is limited depth of field, where the bagel and the plate are the main subject, therefore they are very clear, whereas the background, which is the tablecloth, is slightly blurred. This was edited using Lightroom, where the parts that were edited were the exposure, contrast, highlights, shadows, whites, blacks, and color mix, specifically the color red, which is used for the tomatoes. Next on our little breakfast menu is sugary cereal. So in this photo, we can see milk being poured into the bowl where there's already some cereal, which is specifically Frosties, though I prefer to call it cornflakes with diabetes because Frosties are cornflakes with a lot of sugar. So the cereal is in a square bowl on top of the same tablecloth from before, which is of a squarish pattern, though in this photo we can slightly see the background, which is the wall and a bit of the floor. So this photo was taken on the 29th of June 2020 and it uses the technique of fast shutter speed. The fast shutter speed was used for the milk, which is being poured into the bowl, so that we can kind of see the milk being poured a little clearly. This photo was edited using Lightroom, where the parts that were edited were the exposure, contrasts, highlights, shadows, whites, blacks, and the color mix, specifically the color yellow, which was used for the cereal part.
On to the next picture, which is the Terengganu Classic Roti Pang, which is a very well-known bread in Terengganu. This picture was taken on 19 June 2020 when I just on my way back from Terengganu on the way to Kuala Lumpur. What caught my attention is it just baked right there and then, and it is very hot and steamy. And then I took out my phone and I took the picture. So I did a bit of editing using Adobe Lightroom. which is I adjust the exposure, the contrast, the highlight and the shadows to give more details on the bun itself. So you can see there's a whitish spots like an oily on the surface.
Is Salman time! So the next picture we have is a plate of deliciousness. We have grilled salmon with a side of sauteed mushroom. Don't forget your veggies. We have carrots, we have broccolis, and we have mashed potatoes and lemon sauce. So this plate of deliciousness, oh my god, I tell you. I took it 16th June 2020, and funny story behind this picture, it wasn't taken once, it had to be done a lot of time, and I wanted to get the picture of the lemon sauce dripping. That was my main goal, is to capture the lemon sauce dripping. By the end of the photo shoot, my salmon was drowning in lemon sauce, but it made it better. So the technique that I use for this picture is slow shutter speed, because I want to take the picture of the lemon dripping. Okay, editing. I did have to edit it due to the fact that the lighting was very poor and I had to use flash. Everything was okay in the picture, but the mashed potato was affected by the light. So for me, it's too bright for me to consider it as pleasing to look at. So I did have to lower the exposure. I add the contrast, I decrease the highlight, and I did adjust the color a bit to make it like even more, to make the color visible, because using flash sometimes the color worn out, like it makes the food pale. So I didn't want that. I had to adjust the colors. I add clarity and dehaze it as well. What time is it now? It's burger o'clock. So next in the lunch list we have the beautiful, delicious, juicy stack up burger. You heard me right, stack up. Why do I call it stack up? Look at the stacks of deliciousness. That cheese, that double patty, oof, the salad, the fries, and the sauce. Amazing. You can hear my stomach grumbling right now. This deliciousness was taken by me 24th June 2020, and the technique that I used on this picture was LDOF. I didn't want to take the focus from the burger. I mean, look at it. It's glorious. I had to edit it. I did have to, because right beside the table there was a very large window, so light was coming through. So I had to adjust the color. I played with the texture. I increased it to make the photo even more clear. I did increase the haze because I wanted to get rid of the light on the fries, and also I did increase sharpening, radius, and masking, because I want the burger to be clear. I want the cheese, like the fold, the shadow of the cheese melting. I want to see that. I don't want the cheese to be flat. I want to see the details. The details is what makes the burger look beautiful. Get ready. The next in the list is too hot to handle. Now we have, in the lunch list, we have the hot plate noodles, taken by me 24th June 2020. The technique that I use for this picture is LDOF again, because the background wasn't that much. It was interesting. It didn't match the noodles, the hot plate noodles. So I decided to focus on the food more. Like I wanted to focus more on the at the fork, the noodle twirl. I wanted to focus on that, so I used LDOF. For this picture, I did not edit. I did not do much, but I did increase the contrast, the texture, to make it even more clear, to see the little details on the food.
For the next main course, which is the creamy buttermilk chicken. So this picture was taken on 27th of May 2020, which is still during the MCO period. So during that time, we are figuring out what should we cook at home, and then me and my sister and my mom, so we decided to cook buttermilk chicken. So I added a bit the highlight, shadow and vibrance to give that creamier look on that chicken, you know, and that oozing and flowing gravy, you know. Next is one of my favorite, which is the chicken grill and pasta. The picture was taken on 19th of June 2020, and it's actually during dinner time at one of my family favorite Western place to go, which is Overloaded Western. So I did a little bit of editing on the Adobe Lightroom, which is the contrast, whites and vibrance to enhance the look of the gravy, the char on the grill, on the chicken grill, and also the color of the pasta itself, so it look more appetizing, you know. On to the next category, which is the dessert or the palate cleanser. So for the dessert, I have taken the picture of mini donuts. It was taken on 16th of June 2020 at my sister's house. So the highlight is the center of the picture, and you can see the technique used is LDOF. I did a little bit of editing on the Adobe Lightroom, which is the contrast, the highlights, the shadows and whites to bring out the focus onto the middle donuts, so it becomes the star of the picture. So once you look at the picture, you will see that Oreo donuts.
Say cheese. So the next picture that we have now is the cheesecake. Yes, the cheesecake. So taken by me 18th June 2020, I went out to get food at McDonald's. So I saw this beautiful cheesecake on the wooden plate, and what stood out the most to me was the symmetrical line that, you know, was formed by how the cheesecake was put on the wooden plate. I was like, yeah, that is very pleasing to look at. So I decided to take a picture of it using the technique LDOF, because the background was not interesting at all, and in fact it was behind the counter. So I was like, yeah, I wanted to focus on just the cake. Okay, the editing, I did have to edit because when I took the picture, there was a glass between my camera and the cake. I have to increase the contrast, as well as I did increase the yellow temperature color, and to make the picture clear, I had to increase the texture and the clarity, as well as sharpening.
Next, we have the seasonal specials, which is the one, the only durian, or the king of fruits. So in this photo, you can see the main subject, of course, being the durian, though it is obvious to see that this photo was taken outdoors from the skies and the front porch, of course. And there is also a little Malaysian flag at the back, just because we've got that Malaysian pride, and durians are very, very special in the hearts of every Malaysian, well, most of them. So the durian is placed on the ground in a slightly L shape. You can see where the main subject mostly focuses on the yellow fruit part and its shell. So this photo was taken on the 5th of June 2020, and it is using the technique of LDOF, so limited depth of field, where the main subject is clear, which is the durian, whereas the rest of the background is blur. So this photo was edited using Lightroom. where the parts that were edited were the exposure, the contrast, highlights, shadows, whites, blacks, and the color mix, specifically the color yellow, which is for the durian fruit. And that concludes our group's presentation of our online album, which we have deemed the theme of We are from the group Tiga Lipa. And with that, I say thank you for watching.